Hi, thank you for coming to Delegation, sharing the work, sharing the benefits. My name is Rachel Minkin, and I'm head of reference services here at Michigan State University Libraries. I feel like I should do the hand thing. This is where I am in the Lower Peninsula. By training, I'm a generalist. Reference and instruction, back in the day when those two things were always paired together. And I've always enjoyed learning new things on the job. I like getting a new wrinkle in the brain, anything to help me get a little new skill. And now that I'm the supervisor of approximately 25 library personnel, I like to delegate out and give other people new skills. Now, before I go a step further, I fully recognize that as a white cisgender female, I am very, very, very highly represented here in librarianship. I 100% realize that all of what I'm going to say comes from a very specific privileged context. And what seems win-win to me may sound like an uninvited or a non-refusable request to someone else. Listening and paying close attention are key in any conversation around the delegation of duties. I also want to say that if you're looking for scholarship on delegation and management, this is not the talk for you. This is a one-sided conversation. I am talking to you, and I hope you'll provide the other side of the conversation during our question and answer time following the session. So why should managers delegate? Well, it's easy. It's because we need more time. Managers need time to visualize big projects. We need a big operational picture. We need to formulate a plan. And that's hard to do if we're still making donuts or crafting widgets or staffing service points. When we don't delegate, if we don't reclaim that time, we face a whole list of things that could go wrong in our own lives, right? We face burnout. We face poor job satisfaction. Heck, maybe even a poor job evaluation from our supervisor, right? So if we're doing all of the things, we're probably not doing any of them particularly well. It's hard to get everything done in the time allotted also. So say goodbye to your work-life balance. That's just right out the door. But all of this is easier said than done. I know. As a manager, we are responsible for the end result, right? So to make sure it's up to our own personal standards, we need to maybe keep an eye on it. Isn't that how we got promoted in the first place? Well, sure, it was the good work that we were doing, and then we got promoted up. How can I trust anyone but myself to do that work? Makes it really, really hard to kind of let go of a task, give it to someone else. So we need to have a little bit of a sidebar conversation about trust. We got to trust the folks that we supervise. And I think we do, but we need to really, really trust them. And we have to engender trust in them. We want them to trust us too. We don't want them to think that we're just trying to give them more work. We want them to see that we want to give them a gift of a skill. All of this is solidly based on regular meetings and constant communication, and none of it happens right away, sadly. I mean, this really takes a lot of work. You know that as managers. Your efforts are going to be totally front-loaded on this preparatory side. We're going to lay down that foundation for future trust. But once that foundation is laid down, almost any job can be shepherded by another person other than you. Start to finish, you just have to pair that right person with the right job. Each staff member will have a task that they can take on comfortably, and they can take it on in your stead, things that they're probably much better at than you ever were when you did the same job. If we've done our delegation right, I mean, like choosing the right person for the right job, then we shouldn't have to spend a whole lot of time on this after the initial training. We can put people in charge of tasks, and they can do it better than we can do it, and they've got more time to spend on it than we ever could. As I said earlier, I think there are scenarios where delegation could be perceived as an overstep, whereas I may see myself as teaching staff or librarians a new skill that I think is going to serve them throughout their career. They may see this as additional work with no benefit at all. And where I see maybe mentorship or staff development, where I see maybe like an ethical underpinning of librarianship, this idea of like bringing everybody up and like getting us all on the same page, it may in fact seem like a white elephant gift, right? We don't want it. Once again, it comes back to that constant communication, listening intently, and working towards supervisor-supervisee relationships. And these relationships have to be built in trust. Now, sometimes, even if delegation is going well, we managers can torpedo our own work. Micromanaging is, that sort of retaining responsibility and decision-making because we just don't trust that our staff will do it as well as we ever could. So we got to get over that, right? We need to trust and respect library personnel knowledge. It's a very vulnerable place. I know this. It's admitting that our colleagues, our staff, they have the same knowledge and skills we do, and they probably can do it better. It's potentially better than what we'll ever know. Delegation implies a certain amount of autonomy. It implies respect and absolutely grounded in trust. You have to let go. Now, I mean, I understand why micromanaging happens. It's scary, super scary to be held accountable for something that someone else is doing, but we are the managers, right? And if the task isn't completed to explicitly stated standards, right, then we meet with our staff and we coach them and we retrain if necessary. We do follow up with them. We evaluate as needed. It's all the things that managers do. And if things still aren't working, well, we may have to take some of those things that we tried to delegate, we have to take them back. And honestly, if everyone's plate is full, you are the most full, right? You are the manager. When everyone's plate is full, you are experiencing the full management world, middle management, right? So speaking of explicitly stated standards, when we delegate, we must be exceptionally clear about what that work is, what the expectations are, and what does a good job look like, all before we ever meet with the library professional and ask them if they want to take this on. We have to be very clear of what it is where you're asking of them. And this can be a conversation about the new task with them, but it is also really, really wise to have it written down too. Written documentation is best. It's something I'm working on personally because I would prefer to just chat it out and sort of like work out the bugs as we go. But I have many colleagues who prefer written documentation, and honestly, it helps. When I was a newer supervisor, I didn't always realize that, and it took me a few misses before I figured that one out. Luckily, I was coached from above, and I learned how to solve that problem, right? So now I provide written as well as spoken instruction on what it is that I'm looking for. I also want to add that personally, I establish follow-ups when I give it a new task, like when I assign something new. Sometimes that follow-up is in 1 month. If it's not as urgent, or it might be next week, if it's a little bit more timely. It depends on the task. It depends on the person assigned to the task, and also maybe the relative or temporal, importance of said task. So there's a lot of variability on this side, but on their end, we've agreed to a follow-up at a set time. I guess in the end, what you really need to do is to know your team, right? As a manager, you're already meeting with them, I hope, regularly, like maybe once a month or once a week or whatever your regular schedule is. You're listening intently when they're talking about their job, right? What do they get excited about? What strengths do you see in their work? And you can extrapolate even, right? Like if they're excited about X, maybe try Y. As a caveat, it is super, super, super difficult to not overload your good people. You know, your good people. They get every job accomplished and they do it so well. And they're so nice about it. But personally, there's a few things that I do, and I think they'll help you too. One, I have a running list of who's doing what for me right now, like at any given moment. When it's getting close to evaluation time, I meet with everyone prior to that. So I meet with them well before we ever get to evaluations. I go through my list of tasks and I know what needs to be done, what could be assigned in the future. I know what they're working on right now. And then I start adding things in where I think they might enjoy it or where they might fit or what based on what they've told me that they're interested in. There's constant adjustment and constant check-in. Now, I've been thinking about this quite a bit for the last 2 weeks or so because I attended the North American Virtual Reference Conference just a couple of weeks ago. And Meredith Farkas was the keynote speaker, and she was talking to us about slow librarianship. She included the issue of overloading our best people at work and that the reward for doing their jobs well is more work. So I need to review some of my practices because I think I'm falling into that trap as well. And I think maybe I'm doing that to some of my folks. But overall, I think done well, delegation emphasizes person-centered work by elevating the relationship and the communication between a manager and their colleagues, right? Their staff who are working for them through careful listening and inclusion of staff's input to the supervisor-supervisee meeting, right? A manager can utilize delegation as a means to creating and supporting a staff person's career goals while also ensuring the day-to-day running of the library. Delegation provides mid-level managers with a means to accomplish all that is required of them, while also providing opportunity for frontline librarians and library staff to shine. Frontline librarians and staff have a space to hone some skills, and all their responsibility and the repercussions remain with management. The shared workload provides management time for strategic planning and reflective practice, while also inviting novel insights and solutions from library personnel. For librarians and staff, the opportunity to voluntarily take on increasing responsibilities can add to their tenure and promotion dossier and can be used as a basis to request raises. Delegation of tasks also allows staff and librarians an opportunity to try on different aspects of new positions, management or otherwise, and to rehearse different positions in the organization. Win-win if done well. Thank you so much for coming to my talk. And I'd love to continue this conversation with you after these short talks. Thank you.